Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Friday, the 18th of July, 2025. It's day 651 since October 7th of 2023. A daily update that actually is inclusive of some of the updates from yesterday. On Thursdays, we typically do a weekly summary. So a lot's happened in the last 24, 48 hours. There have been ceasefire conversations. Qatar, Egypt, and the U.S. on Wednesday presented Israel and Hamas with an updated ceasefire agreement and a hostage deal proposal. It incorporates, quote, progress made in negotiations over the last 10 days, end quote. That's from sources. Now, the U.S. envoy for hostages, Adam Boehler, said this week that the truce is closer than it's ever been. However, in other reports, we've heard comments like no progress has been made or that peace talks have stalled. Also, this is just conversations about a 60-day ceasefire agreement and not a permanent proposal. So I do hope that there is progress. There's no real update in that regard. Israel, meanwhile, has demolished thousands of buildings across Gaza since March. They've resumed the destruction in their ongoing hostilities with Hamas. Satellite imagery, BBC News reported, shows entire towns and suburbs leveled just in the past weeks. I heard a different report that said that more than 70% of the houses and infrastructure in Gaza has been completely destroyed. An IDF spokesperson said that the destruction of property is only performed when it's an imperative military necessity and it's demanded. Other experts would severely disagree. According to multiple legal experts, Israel's actions may amount to war crimes under the Geneva Convention. It prohibits the destruction of infrastructure by an occupying power. In the last 24 hours, at least 27 people in the Gaza Strip have been killed, according to medic and church officials. We'll talk more about that attack on the Latin Catholic Family Church in the Gaza Strip. A number of killed reportedly includes 8 men who were tasked with protecting aid trucks. That's the recent updates on deaths in Gaza. Israel's Shas party became the second ultra-Orthodox party to announce that it is going to quit Netanyahu's coalition over disagreements related to the draft exemptions bill. The Shas departure leaves Netanyahu with a minority in the Knesset. We'll talk more about the implications of that in terms of the Israeli politics in the days ahead. It could mean a vote sooner than expected on the horizon. In an unusual and unprecedented move, we talked about this a bit, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, attended a hearing related to Netanyahu's corruption trial. This was in a Tel Aviv district court. Trump previously pressed for a halt in this trial, which he described as, quote, a witch hunt. In terms of Iran, the U.S. bombardment on the Iranian facility several weeks ago badly damaged and potentially destroyed Iran's deeply buried nuclear enrichment plant at Fordo. That's what U.S. officials at least have said, with a new U.S. intelligence assessment. 2 other sites were not as badly damaged as expected, and they were degraded only to a point where nuclear enrichment could resume in the next several months. Damascus, this is related to Syria, is not preparing to redeploy troops to the Suwaida province. That's the province in the south where there have been all those escalations in recent days. 594 people have been killed during recent sectarian violence in South Syria, according to the human rights monitoring group Syrian Observatory. They said 83 members of the Druze religious minority were summarily executed by government forces, and 3 Bedouin civilians were summarily killed by Druze fighters. An armored convoy carrying several Western diplomats was passing by Syria's defense ministry when Israel struck the building with several missiles this past week on Wednesday. No one in the convoy was injured. The U.S. did not support the recent Israeli strikes on Syria, according to the State Department. They declined to say whether or not Washington supports Israel carrying out military operations upon Syrians when they deem it necessary. This was on Wednesday, reported on Thursday about the Israeli launch on the Syrian capital of Damascus. 3 people were killed in that attack, damaging a compound that houses the defense ministry. There were strikes near the presidential palace. Shortly after the strikes, Damascus said a new ceasefire agreement with Druze forces was reached, a claim confirmed by some but contradicted by others. The Syrian government forces also began withdrawing from the Druze majority region of Suwaida in the south. So that was the reference to Israel saying that they do not intend, to the Syrian government forces, saying they do not intend to redeploy forces to the south of Syria. In a televised address yesterday, on Thursday, the Syrian interim president, Ahmad al-Shara, accused Israel of trying to destabilize and sow division in Syria, saying that it is his priority to protect the Syrian citizens that are Druze. That was from the Syrian president al-Shara. The U.S. has worked with all parties involved in the clashes in Syria and agreed on specific steps that will bring this troubling and horrifying situation to an end. Mark Rubio said that on Wednesday evening. So just a reminder that dozens of people were killed in those sectarian clashes. Reports actually indicate that it's been hundreds in past days. In Yemen, there is concern about the rearming of forces via Iran. Iran is making an effort to arm its militia across the Middle East. A pattern of high-value weapon seizures by Syrian, Yemeni, and Lebanese forces has seemed to indicate such is the case. In a statement, His Holiness Pope Leo XIV, the new pope, said that he was deeply saddened to hear about the attack on the Gaza Catholic Church. He renewed his calls for an immediate ceasefire. We'll talk about that more in a minute. France, the UK, and Germany yesterday informed Iran that they would restore the UN Security Council sanctions on Iran, Tehran specifically, unless it reopens its talks on the nuclear program immediately and produces concrete results by the end of August. The ICC International Criminal Court judges yesterday rejected Israel's request to withdraw arrest warrants against Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Gallant and to suspend the wider investigation into alleged atrocity of crimes in the Palestinian territories. Related to the U.S., some Trump administration officials are holding on to efforts to finalize a deal with the UAE. This is specifically related to NVIDIA's AI chips. Now, this deal has been on hold because of concerns that China could get access to the cutting-edge U.S. technology. The delay might be resolved if the UAE could agree to different terms to address the U.S. officials' National Security Council concerns, or national security concerns specifically. One of the other things that's been happening in Washington, D.C., which can be a very strange place, there have been a steady stream of far-right leaders, including Tucker Carlson, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, far-right U.S. politician and representative from Georgia, speaking out strongly opposing Israel's actions and continued U.S. support. Now, this means that there are far-right groups that are calling for the same things that Churches for Middle East Peace is calling for, but just for different reasons. For example, Marjorie Taylor Greene has called for the withholding of weapons from Israel. CMEP has done so because of concerns they've been used in violation of international law. During the appropriations process, Marjorie Taylor Greene introduced an amendment that would strip $500 million in funds specifically from the Iron Dome defense system from Israel. You can hear her speech on the floor where she specifically mentioned the bombing at the Catholic Church in Gaza. When she introduced an amendment to reduce funding meant for Israeli assistance related to a Defense Department appropriations package for 2026, Marjorie Taylor Greene specifically said that Israel bombed the Catholic Church in Gaza using American weapons. Columbia University and the Trump administration are inching closer to ending the standoff over the school's federal funding related to concerns about harassment of Jewish students. They agreed to the main terms of the deal in a meeting this past week. Finally, closing with an update on Christians in the Middle East, I talked previously about the Israeli strike on Gaza City's Holy Family Catholic Church. It killed 3 people, 10 others were injured, including Father Romanelli, the parish priest. The strike also caused extensive damage in the religious complex. Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzabella, who's the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, CMEP has a close relationship with him in his office, told Vatican News, "What we know for sure is that a tank, the IDF says by mistake, but we're not sure about this, hit the church directly. Several hundreds of Palestinians were sheltering in the church compound when the attack occurred." President Trump called on Netanyahu to express, quote, "not a positive reaction," end quote, to the attack on the church, according to White House press secretary. Shortly after the call, Netanyahu's office said that Israel deeply regrets the stray ammunition that hit the church. They said the incident is under investigation. Churches for Middle East Peace specifically put out a statement about this yesterday. It's in today's bulletin, condemning the attack on the Holy Family Catholic Church, calling for an immediate permanent ceasefire and the protection of all civilians and religious sites. We denounced in the strongest possible terms the attack, the strike that killed 3 people, causing extensive damage to the parish. About 700 displaced civilians, mostly children, have been sheltering there since the beginning of the war. This most recent attack marks the 6th assault on churches in Gaza since October 2023. You'll recall that there are well under 1,000 Christians remaining in Gaza. Each of these attacks is a clear violation of international law, as humanitarian refugees and holy sites must be protected. As this attack was not only an attack on refugees and holy sites, but also on human dignity and the freedom of worship. So that is the update from the day. Continue in your efforts. Do not give up hope. Continue in your advocacy, your prayers, and your ardent seeking for a comprehensive permanent ceasefire. May it be so in the name of Christ. Amen.